Hey everybody, what's up? Just back with another video. So today I want to watch and react with you guys to a video that I saw from RFK Jr., who was recently on Tim Dillon's podcast. And I thought this particular part was very interesting. The whole episode is very good. You should definitely check it out. But this particular part here we're about to watch is very interesting. It's also very concerning, but I thought we should have a look at that. We're going to react to it, comment after, and definitely leave your comments in the comment section, just so that we can kind of have a discussion about this, which I really enjoy doing. So here we go. Let's start the video.
Well, it's like, I remember being broke, being a comedian and just trying to make it. And, it's tough to, opening bank accounts. Yeah. It's hard.
Yeah.
It's climbing out of poverty and the type of poverty that, we're not talking about people that are momentarily broke. We're talking about, in many cases, generational poverty. People aren't inheriting homes. They're not, they feel locked out of the system. In many ways they are. Their credit rating is tough. Maybe they got busted for smoking weed, or there's some, criminal record that's preventing them from getting the job they want. The Democratic Party had always styled itself as kind of the defender of working people and the defender of economic justice. What happened?
Now I saw this data the other day, and I haven't traced it down to verify it. But what I read the other day was that 70% of the wealth in this country is now controlled by Democrats.
Isn't that interesting, right? He explains kind of how it used to be the other way around, but that's when I was a kid, it seemed as in the Republicans had a lot of the money, and now it's kind of flip flop to the other side. Now the Democrats seem to be the oligarchy in this country.
Versus 30% by independents and Republicans, and at the top, 9 of the 10 top richest counties are now Democratic counties. So it used to be, this is flip flop from where it was when I was a kid, where the Republicans were the rich, were the oligarchs, and the Democrats were working poor, working people,
right?
And so it has flipped, and you're asking me why. I don't know exactly. No, I watched it happen. Let me just finish the.
Yeah, this is interesting. Democratic counties represent 70% of U.S. GDP.
Yeah.
2020 election shows. So that the 2020 elections, chaotic and marked by races too close to call, have nonetheless reaffirmed that, at least in Washington, the two parties now speak for markedly different segments of the U.S. economy.
Yeah, that's very interesting, right? Because when you and I were growing up,
and I don't know if you've seen that list, but if the top 10 cities or regions of the United States are Democrat, a lot of them are in New York, and even like big cities in Virginia, the few big cities that they have, they're all Democratic ran. And even if you look at cities like Chicago, New York, Baltimore, LA, San Francisco, Detroit, these places have all been Democrat in the city. Now, outer in the suburbs of those states, then you get more Republican voters, more Republicans getting votes, obviously. So, it's very interesting how you have the inner city, right, which are, let's be honest, some pretty crappy places to live right now. No one wants to go to Detroit, Chicago, Baltimore, etc. And they're essentially becoming like second world countries, and they're all Democrat. It's the suburbs that are Republican. But it's interesting just to see how much money has actually been filtered over to the Democrats over time. And then you see how much money they take. Like, for example, Joe Biden, his last presidential campaign in 2020 received $200 million. So it's the Democrats are now who are rich. It's the Democrats who are the party of war. It's the Democrats who are the oligarchy now.
The Democrats represented the poor and the middle
class. That's right,
class,
yeah.
And the Republicans represented Wall Street and the oligarchy. But one of the things that I'm going to do, I'm going to immediately create a new class of mortgages that, if you have a rich uncle, you can get a much lower mortgage rate. If he will co-sign your loan, co-sign your mortgage, you can get it because the bank is looking at his bank book rather than yours, and they're going to give him a better rate because it's a lower risk. do is I'm going to give everybody a rich uncle, which is going to be Uncle Sam. And I'm going to get Uncle Sam to co-sign this new class of mortgages that people get for 3%. Only first-time individual homeowners can get it. They have to live in that community, and they have to work in that community. And I'm going to give the first 500,000 of these to teachers because we need to start supporting our teachers and allow them to live near the schools and work in those places. And the way, and I'm going to finance those mortgages not by increasing our debt, which we should not be doing, but rather by selling 3% bonds that are tax-free. So the market goes.
And see, and this is just another case of how RFK Jr. is showing that he is really thinking, worrying, and has solutions for communities, for people who are struggling to get homes at these ridiculous interest rates and these ridiculous prices. He really wants to fix these things, and he wants to restore the middle class. He wants to make sure that people have a nice, comfortable, decent life at least. If you're willing to work anything or any kind of job, if you work 40 hours a week, you should be able to afford a decent life. Nothing of luxury. You got to go above and beyond for luxury. But I mean, there's just so many people right now who are working 40 hours or plus, and they're barely hanging on to renting a shitty apartment in some shithole city somewhere. I mean, it's just a mess. And again, all of these cities, Democrat liberals. Or liberals. I mean, I don't even know if they're really liberals at this point. There's a lot of people in the Democratic Party, like Joe Biden, like Joe Manchin, who aren't even liberal. These guys are right wingers. It's unbelievable. But this is a guy who wants to actually fix things. And the more he goes on, and the more his podcast tour continues, the more support he's getting. He's essentially gaining like 100,000 new followers on X, formerly known as Twitter, every week. So by the time next year comes around, he's got millions and millions and tens of millions of followers if he keeps up this rate. And the more that Joe Biden screws up, the more that they push Gavin Newsom, which is probably going to start, this guy's going to get more and more popular. And this is a good thing for everybody. He's the best presidential candidate in my lifetime, and it's not even close.
Snap up those bonds, and we'll be able to finance mortgages. So your kids now will be paying $1,000. It will take $1,000 a month off the typical mortgage, off the average mortgage, and you can now get a home for $1,000 a month. And people are paying that for rent.
And you're building a middle class.
They're paying more than that for rent. I mean, there's some places like I live in southern Ontario in Canada, and there's neighboring cities to where I live that it's $1,700-$1,800 for a one bedroom. Like it's so ridiculous. I don't know how people can afford that.
And when we built the middle class in this country after World War II, we built a middle class that became the greatest economic generator in the history of mankind.
Absolutely.
And we owned, when I was a boy, half the wealth on the face of the earth because of the American middle class. And now we're tearing it apart. And but it began by making sure everybody could get into a house after World War II with the GI Bill or with these other programs that allowed every American to buy a house. And once you buy a house, you have access to capital. You can start a business if you're entrepreneurial. And it released these what Franklin Roosevelt called America's industrial genius. The inclination for innovation, for entrepreneurship, for business development. You can't do that if the middle class does not have access to capital, which means if they have no equity, if they're living in a rental home, you cannot rebuild them. You need to get them into their own homes.
How do you stop the BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street from cannibalizing the real estate that we have in America right now?
Well, they're doing it too with the farm real estate. And in fact, that's one of the reasons for the Ukraine war is that we're loaning $140 billion to Ukraine, and they're paying it back by, we force them to do this through austerity programs. And it's part of our contract where they have to put all the farmland in Ukraine up for sale. It's called a land market. And BlackRock is over there buying. The corporations have snapped up 28% of this, the richest farmland in the world.
I'm so stunned and shocked by that. It is so can you imagine that? What I
But
mean,
but how do you? But yeah, how do we stop?
How do you stop that?
You do it through the tax code. I mean, I believe in free market capitalism.
Sure.
I don't believe. Well,
Me too.
we don't have that now. What we have is corporate crony capitalism,
Right.
monopoly cap.
100% he's right. And these big corporations own the government because they're the ones who pay largely for their campaigns. So these corporations are essentially controlling the system because they control the politicians by having the politicians in their pockets. So when someone else tries to start a business to essentially compete with these big companies, these big corporations, they get shut down by these regulations. And all it's really doing is just keeping the same people in power because no one can compete with them because you have so much money and power, and now you have the politicians in your pocket. No one can get close to you. Unless you're part of the club. If you're part of the club, you got a rich uncle or something like that, then yeah, okay, you can get out, you can escape the matrix, if you will. But it is becoming, I mean, they're trying to do everything they can to keep people poor, to keep you in the middle class, which is disappearing. So if you're in the middle class, say now, and then still in 10 years from now, you will be poor. There's no way around it, and it's just crazy what we're doing. And RFK Jr. is right. We don't have capitalism. And a lot of people have these Marxist ideologies. Well, we need to get rid of capitalism. We've gotten rid of capitalism in the 90s or 80s, even maybe. It's all corporate crony capitalism. What we need is a free market capitalist society so that if someone starts, say, overcharging, then a new business will come in, undercut the prices, and they'll be able to make money. And then the people who are price gouging are going to go to business. So that eliminates price gouging because they know they can't do it. They can't get away with it. Now they can. Because when you have the politicians in your pocket, you can do whatever you want. They will sign any bill you need. And we need to really start focusing in on this and realizing this because this shit needs to change. It's destroying the middle class. It's destroyed capitalism. Now you have all these young people out there who have no idea what capitalism even is, and they want to overthrow it for communism. Yeah, that works. Not.
And you need to start enforcing the antitrust laws, which is one of the reasons BlackRock is getting away with murder. They own all these industries that they've consolidated. They've vertically integrated them, and they shouldn't be allowed to do that.
Absolutely, it's crazy how you have companies like Vanguard, you have State Street, you have BlackRock, and BlackRock, State Street, and Vanguard. You have these three companies who are essentially buying up all of the houses. And by 2030, they're about to own, I think it's like 80% of all family homes. It's just crazy. I mean, they want to own everything. And by the way, RFK Jr. also makes a very good point in this video about how they also own a lot of the financial companies. They own almost everything. And they don't want to stop until they own everything. And then the market is theirs, which again explains how we don't have free market capitalism. It's corporate crony capitalism. And that needs to change. All right, guys, so that's going to be it for this video. Thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate you guys. Definitely comment. I really enjoy reading and responding to your comments. It's something, it's probably one of the things I enjoy most about this channel, or having this channel rather. So definitely let me know what you think, and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. And like always, I'll be back shortly with another video. Thanks again for watching. Take care.